Hi everyone. I wanted to do a quick video on all of the questions that you've been sending on our budget process. So first I want to thank you all because it's been great to see a number of questions that have come in, and these questions range from very general to some very specific ideas. So what I'm going to do right now is cover off a few of the more general questions, and then over the coming weeks we're going to have more opportunities to talk about some of those specific ideas and questions that people have raised. So we're going to start really with the first big question that I think a lot of people want to know. Is the city proposing a tax increase larger than inflation? The short answer is we actually don't know yet. The budget document is going to be released on November the 7th, and at which point we will all know at that point what's being proposed. I'm going to guess that it's likely to be something above inflation, which is part of why I put forward the motion that passed around finding reductions in savings. But again, just because the budget document would get released with a whatever the number is, that doesn't mean that council has to agree to that. We'll have the opportunity through the budget deliberations near the end of November and beginning of December to finalize what that will be. The next question we had was, does the city realize things continuously shift during a given year given our economy? And the very short answer is yes, we do that. And in fact, we have a process in place that allows us to do supplemental budget adjustments, both on the capital budget for our larger infrastructure, but also on the operating budget. And we want to do that so that we can be flexible. While this is a 4-year process, things change very quickly. We have to be able to adjust. And so we do have that process built in. The third question I want to cover is why, somebody had asked, why doesn't the city publish an annual audited financial statement? And so I wanted to give good news to the person that asked that question. We actually do. We have an annual financial report that includes our audited financials that gets released every year. The 2017 one is available on the city website. So if you're having trouble locating that information or any information related to the budget, you can always reach out to me directly and we can help you track down that information. And then once you get a chance to review all of those various documents, again, always happy to get your feedback or additional questions that you might have. The fourth question to cover is, what is the current amount of city debt and what is a safe amount for our city to carry? So we get fairly regular updates on our financial position, and our most recent one was as of June 30th, and that showed that we have about $3 billion in debt as a city. There are a couple important things to talk about when we refer to debt as a municipality. We, unlike the other orders of government, cities in Alberta cannot run a deficit. So any debt we take on has to be supported through property taxes. We have and we even measure what percentage of our operating budget goes to filling in and covering off that debt. So while I won't go into great detail, I will suggest there are a few interesting documents that would be worth reading for anyone wanting to learn a bit more. The most notable one being something called our debt white paper that was released a while back. And what it does is it showcases how cities in Alberta are allowed to operate with regards to debt, what the limits are under the Municipal Government Act, but it also talks about our city's debt management fiscal policy. And that policy was approved many, many years ago, and it's designed to be far more strict than even what's permitted under the Municipal Government Act. So when people hear that number and might hear $3 billion, they think, "Wow, is the city, going to become the next? Can we go bankrupt? What could happen with that?" And in fact, we are in a very good financial position using our own debt management fiscal policy, which has really put in a very strict limit. But for the sake of knowledge for everyone, just to let you know, that $3 billion accounts for about 55.9% of our debt limit under the Municipal Government Act. And again, we have a more strict debt limit and we're still nowhere close to maxing out on that. That doesn't mean we should also suddenly go build anything and everything, but we need to find that balance. And so there will be some more opportunities to talk about debt, but I think that document, that debt white paper, is one of the best resources for people to learn exactly how debt works. And it's actually not as boring of a read as you might think it sounds, because I enjoyed reading it. I think other people would, if you really want to understand how debt works in municipal government in Alberta. Another question come up is, why isn't zero-based budgeting applied to city departments on an annual basis? And so for those who are unaware, the concept behind zero-based budgeting is essentially every single area starts at $0, and they have to justify each and every single ask within their budget request. And there have been times where the cities have done that before. I believe even Edmonton Public Library has done that in the past. We're actually doing a slightly different approach right now. We a few years ago approved something called our Program and Service Review. And that is a project that is going through each and every single area of business that we are doing as a city. And we're going in and asking some really important questions like, is this an area that we should even still be providing a service? And so I would say, while it's not the same in this case as a zero-based budget approach, I think it's actually a fairly necessary conversation, because while the work is being done internally, there are people who go through each and every business area to do this review. We do this with support from external bodies. So there have been external challenge panels set up that, as they're going through that review process and they come up to something that may be unnecessary, may be something that we have questions about, there's actually people that will present to this challenge panel made up of business leaders and a wide variety of people who get to ask sort of those tough, critical questions around, why are you doing this way? And should you do it this way? Have you thought about that? What's the impact of that decision? And they'll, even asking those questions, is this really an area that should be within the city responsibility? So this Program and Service Review is a multi-year project, because again, we are going through every single area, and it's a very thorough process. So a bit of a different approach, and I think we may in the future want to do a zero-based budget again. There's also ways, there's groups that will do priority-based budgeting. There's a couple of different tools you could use. I think right now the right tool is this Program and Service Review, because this is the first time in about 20 years we've been doing something of this scale. But it also should be noted that every year the city does find efficiencies and reallocations. For the last number of years, if you go to the budget documents, there's actually a number of pages dedicated towards all of the efficiencies and savings that our administration has found, but still a lot more work to do. The final question that I had was, does the city own assets that could be liquidated? And I think the answer is yes. I mean, almost anything we have could in fact be liquidated. The question is, what services do we want to be providing? What services are we okay with contracting out? Again, this goes back to a little bit of that conversation around what's going to be happening in the Program and Service Review. But I would say we also want to be careful that we don't sort of get rid of everything. That was something that did happen back in the 90s in the city of Edmonton, and I think we've seen some of the challenges with that, and we're playing a bit of catch-up, and to this day we're still playing a bit of catch-up. And so I think the Program and Service Review is the right mechanism to decide, are there specific assets or areas that we shouldn't be involved anymore? And if the answer is yes, then let's use that to make those decisions, and council can finally decide on what they should or shouldn't be doing anymore, using feedback from a number of different groups and individuals. So those were 6 fairly higher level questions that I wanted to answer. We actually got quite a few more, and I'm expecting that there will be more over the coming months as we approach budget deliberations. So happy to take additional questions at any point in time. Please feel free to share those with me. The one thing I wanted to add in closing is we have launched another budget survey. The first survey was more related to the questions that you've been filling out. This one relates to, what are your priorities? What are the things that you want to see council focusing on over the next 4 years? And I'd really encourage you to visit the link below, fill out that survey, share your feedback, share your thoughts. Ideally, share it with your friends and neighbors too. One of the challenges at Budget is we often don't get a lot of participation from people, and I would love to see as much feedback as possible before we begin those deliberations. And you can even use some of the feedback that you'll share through the survey and put it together and bring it out to our public hearing that we'll have on November 15th at City Hall. So there's a lot of opportunities to share your feedback, and I'd really encourage you to take the time to fill out this survey. So thanks again everyone for participating, and look forward to hearing more from you over the coming months regarding budget. Thanks everyone.